Hey guys, I'm Brooke and I'm here to go over last year's 2022 year recap. So as many of you probably noticed, I fell off the bandwagon of my YouTube vlogs, and I set up to my Instagram followers to see if they wanted me to continue with it this year, since 2023 is going to be a really big year for us. And everyone wanted me to continue, so I am working hard to getting back on that. So if you don't follow my Instagram, follow below at cowgirlup157, and you can stay on track of everything that's going on, mostly in real time, and what's going on in our daily life. So 2022 was a big season for us, and as many of you probably follow again on my social media, we had our first big year in ECRRA, which is the East Coast Ranch Riding Association, and it was a big coming out year for Boo. So focusing on Larry for a moment, he did amazing last year. We showed all ECRRA sanctioned shows, mostly all semi-local. We did not travel too far for a lot of the shows, just because it was our first year, besides for the championships. Now, Larry did really, really good all season. Every show he progressed and was doing better and better in our classes. We even placed in some, mostly like champions and reserves at all the shows we went to, which was a big coming out season for him, and I was super, super proud of him. Fast forward towards Kyle, we were just in the top 10. So my goal this year, last year as a refresher, was to finish top 10 in the whole East Coast. Again, ECRRA goes all the way up from Massachusetts, New Hampshire area, all the way down mostly to Virginia. It is the whole East Coast, but most of the area is based around Pennsylvania. As in a Maryland-based person, I'm actually one of the most southernmost competitors. So a lot of our shows are kind of far, and that was one of our biggest struggles, was trying to hit up as many shows as we could around both my barrel racing schedule, showing the English horses, and trying to fit in all the shows that we could to get enough points to be in the top 10. So we had up 2 show series. One was a semi-local one about an hour, 15 minutes away, and another one was actually right around the corner from here, which was great. So we showed all summer, and fast forward to Kyle, which was held in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That was the biggest show me and him have actually gone to. It was a away weekend. It was a four-day show, and I was extremely nervous going to it because we've never traveled that far, let alone stayed over somewhere together. Again, I've gone everywhere with Boo, with Dodge, everyone like that, but Larry's never stayed anywhere. And anyone that knows Larry, he tends to be a little bit more prone to colic. He's a little bit of a stress guy. We treated him very aggressive for ulcers when we first got him. So needless to say, I was very, very nervous going to Kyle. Also, I guess I have to back forward to that. So last year, it was in September, Labor Day weekend, at one of our local shows. That day we did really good. We got a bunch of firsts and seconds, I think maybe a fourth or so. We came home and got him unloaded. It was a hot day, hosed him off and whatnot. When I was turning him out, he had a bomber land on it. For those that don't know what bombers are, they are massive horse flies. They're like this big, and but they hurt. They draw blood on horses, and they usually like to land on their butts where they can't get them. And Larry is a big baby, so I was turning him out and walking to his field, and a bomber landed on him, and so he started getting all agitated. He was following us around, and I knew it was in the area. And I put my lead rope in my left hand, and I went to turn to go like this to smack it, and big baby Larry overreacted when it had bit him before I was able to hit it, and he jumped forward and kicked out. And he doesn't kick straight, he kind of kicks out to the side, and he nailed me in my side. So I was thrown about 5 feet from him, let him go. I was screaming for my husband, who couldn't hear me. He was in the basement of our house. And I will say, this thing here is the greatest thing ever. This, without my watch, I don't know how long I would have been there, because I couldn't find my phone. It was on my hip, and it went missing when he kicked me. I could not move. It was the most excruciating pain I've been through, and I've broken a lot of bones between horses and bull riding. And thanks to my watch, once I finally, I've been screaming for him for, felt like hours, but only a few minutes, I pulled myself together enough to call him through my watch, and thankfully he had his phone on him. He came out and got me. He went, put Larry away from me, and we rushed to the hospital. I went to the ER, and once I showed them where I was hurting, they rushed me in back. And super fast forward, I had a 3 out of 5 liver laceration and was hospitalized in the intensive care and trauma unit up north. So this was early September, and when I went there, of course, it was a very, very long night. I hadn't eaten for days because we had the show the day before. We had a bunch of stuff going on, which we'll get into. But once I was hospitalized, I was in the hospital for about 4 days on intensive care. I was on surgery watch because I had internal bleeding. And thankfully, I didn't need surgery. The bleeding had stopped. All my blood work returned to normal. And I was able to get out of the hospital by Wednesday. Again, this happened Sunday. I was out of the hospital, I think, Wednesday afternoon. Of course, in true horse person fashion, when I was at the hospital, they were like, okay, well, you can't ride, no strenuous stuff, whatever like that. It takes about 8 weeks for your liver to fully kind of start to heal. So I'm supposed to be in strict rest for about 6. And I literally looked at my doctors and I said, well, I have a very, very big month this month, and that's not going to happen. It doesn't work with my schedule. So fast forward to me coming out of the hospital. Thankfully, my mom came down and helped with the farm. Mike was feeding the horses. I had some friends help with feeding, and he was working around the schedule, trying to get everything going. And that following weekend, so I was out of the hospital for about not even a week, and I had a big ranch show. And of course, my concern was staying in the top 10. So I was not supposed to be on a horse for about 6 weeks, and that would make us miss Kyle, our state finals for barrel racing, and 2 ranch shows. So a week out of the hospital, I got on Larry one day, and thankfully I felt fine on him. I was on a lot of medicine and stuff and did fine. So we went to the ranch show, and we took home reserve champion that day. So a week from injury, we were at another show, and we did great. So then some time passed. I took it easy at home. Mike helped work the horses and keep them going. I did end up missing 1 barrel race because I just did not feel like my body could handle riding Boo because of the strenuous and all the swelling I had in my abdomen and the soreness. I didn't think I could sit and do justice for her. But we did make it to our state finals. And then, again, we'll talk about Boo in a minute. Then fast forward, we went to another ranch show, and then we went to Kyle. So I competed at Kyle, and it was about 4 weeks post-injury. Thankfully, my husband was able to come along, and he tacked him up for me. I couldn't lift my ranch saddle onto him. He's a big guy. So he was able to tack him up for me. We competed all weekend, and we did really good. He blew me away. Friday was our trail classes. It was a little fishy. We had an issue with the gate, one direction. He didn't want to do the gate. Everything else was great. Saturday was our pattern classes, and our classes were big. We could only compete in the open. We had about 17 people in our classes, all from the East Coast. We had AQHA champions there. We had big time trainers. Saturday we had won one of our pattern classes, our walk dog classes, and we placed about in the top 5 in all our classes that day. And then Sunday was our rail classes, and that was one of our biggest moments. Was that in the rail classes we had again about 17 people, and in one of the classes there was 2 big time trainers from around here, and the one is on the reigning champion from the year before and has also won the world in some big ranch classes. And sure enough, we went in there and we did our job, and they placed the one person first, his daughter, and then they placed there was 2 judges. The judge then placed him second, and then us right behind him, and I started bawling. To finish behind a 6-figure reigning horse and a world champion ranch horse, and then us, I lost it. And then the second judge pinned us, the daughter first, pinned us second ahead of the ranch champion. And it was like the best moment of my life and my career. Was on this horse I got for free that was a cripple, couldn't barely do anything, and here we are outplacing some of the best ranch horses in the East Coast. So Kyle was great, and because of our points there, Larry and I managed to hold on to top 10. So we did finish top 10 in ECRRA for 2022, and he actually finished top 5 ranch gelding the whole thing. We had a bunch of like top 10 finishes in the region and a bunch of other classes, but they only pin mostly for overall, and the regions we didn't complete in too many region classes, but we did top 10 for the whole East Coast, and he was also top 5 ranch gelding. So that was a really good way to end the year. Also, one of the seasons or the show series that we competed in locally, he finished champion ranch halter and reserve in both champion or reserve champion in both rail and pattern classes. So there we got 2 trophies. We actually got 1 trophy, we got his bridle bag, got a name plaque, and we actually won a perpetual trophy for his confirmation win that we got to keep because it was the last year of that season. So that was a really, really good way to end our ranch season. So Larry walked away with a lot of awards last year, a big time buckle, and it was a really, really good time. So now that we talked about Larry's big accolades, we can talk about Boo. And so last year was again our second real season competing. We went kind of all over, and she did really, really good. We had a lot of good runs. Some people remember in the beginning of last year, about in April, I was ready to throw in the towel. We were really, really struggling. We were just not in sync. There was one race in particular, I took it really, really hard. We hit a barrel and we just were struggling. So I remember that whole drive home from Virginia, I was crying to my mom on the phone saying, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I should just throw in the towel. And thanks to her, I pushed through it and got some help, and really started to change how the year was going. So from then on forward, I had a local trainer help us out who's trained a lot of big time riders, and we fixed some issues we were having, and it was just little tiny things I didn't know how to fix, and we tried a new bit and did a couple different things, and we really started to click. So by as the year went on, our runs got smoother, they got faster, we were taking home checks almost everywhere we went. We actually, at one of the shows in Delaware, we won the 40 one day, and then we actually got second in the average for the whole weekend. So that was a really good weekend, and we just really started to finally click and become like a team. So then fast forward towards September, back to my injury. It was a rough week because Friday night, before we had a race Saturday and a ranch show Sunday, Friday night I came home, had to work horses in the morning, saved her for last. I was like, I'll bathe her, get her ready. And I come to take her out and she's lame. And of course, me being a vet tech, I was panicked. I'm like, what did she do? Blah, blah, blah. Thankfully, she was positive hoof testers on her left hind. Was able to find an abscess, and I was actually able to get most of it out. I was able to dig a little bit and it started to come out, and she felt like she took a huge deep breath as soon as I got it. I was like, okay, well, it's just an abscess. So soaked it, we had it wrapped and everything. I called my farrier, I called my vet. I was like, we have a show tomorrow. I found the abscess, it is draining. What are the odds she can run? So they said, we'll see how she looks in the morning. And they're like, it's just an abscess, so she might be able to run on it. If she's like even 90% better, they said, bring her and go. So we packed the trailer. I was panicking. So I'm like, okay, we're so close. My goal with her was to stay top 5 in the 2D or 3D. And we were just in the 3D. Like we were in the top 5, the 2D and 3D, and we were battling. And so we packed the trailer, and I was like, I don't know, like Dodge, he can't compete. And then he's like, well, my husband was like, why don't you bring Jet? And I was like, well, she hasn't ran really. She's been teaching lessons and stuff. So we went with all intentions of bringing Boo. Next morning I bring her in, I come look at her, and she was better, but she was I'd say she was like 75, 80%. And I was like, I can't do this to this horse. So we pulled Jet out of the field, loaded up Jet, and brought her to the barrel race that day. And that little girl tried her little heart out. She has not run at a big show that caliber. She had been teaching my barrel students all season, but I have not personally run her in I don't know how long. So she went and she tried, and she was actually one out of the money in the ladies' side pot in the 4D. We had a clear and run. She was a lot slower than Boo, but it was a good day. And then but she tried her little heart out, and we almost took home some money for her first big show. And then came home, took care of Boo, and then Sunday we had the ranch show with Larry, and then fast forward to my injury, which all happened at that time. So Jet had to step up to the plate a little bit also, but Boo and I went to state finals despite my liver laceration. That was about 3 weeks out, and she did great. So it's one of our toughest pens. Lady Longear is one of my favorite arenas, but we struggle there, and I just wanted to do right by her. And I was a little worried because I didn't know how it was going to feel. I hadn't been able to practice with her since before she had her abscess. Then I got hurt. My husband was lunging her and got on her a few times. And we were just going kind of blind. So, and she's not the type of horse that handles that type of situation. So fast forward, we go to the state finals. We had our best run ever at that arena, and she really took care of me that day. And we actually finished 4th in the 40 at state finals. So it was a good day. And then she was done for the season after that. I told her she'd have the whole winter off. So she's been relaxing and ended on a good note. And we were able to stay. We took home 7th in the 2D for year end. We stayed in the top 5 for the 3D for the first time. We were, I believe, 8th in the 40, and we were tied for reserve in the 5D. So she did get us 2 world qualifications for 5th in the 3D and reserve in the 5D for 2023. So one of the fun things of 2022, and also a hard realization for me, was that Dodge actually went to a barrel race. Not planned. I had a little fun game show barrel race locally that I was bringing 2 of my students for just to have fun at. One have been riding Jet and been working with her, so it was her first race with Jet. My other student is a friend of mine that also boards her horse here and decided to come along. And the whole week I was like debating to go, and then like with a horse of mine, I was like, Boo can't run here. It's a little local arena, nothing big, and the footing's not the most ideal for her. And I was like, I'm not gonna bring this to her. And everyone's like, why don't you bring Dodge? Let him go. So I didn't really make a decision until the night before, and I decided to bring Dodge to this little fun show. And he'll be 25 this year, and he hadn't seen a pattern in like a year, and I'm going to get emotional because he does this to me. And he hadn't seen a pattern since our last rodeo, and he'd been training, been riding, but we hadn't done anything about that stuff. And I was like, you know what, sure, let's throw him on the trailer, just have fun. And with no expectations, I joked around with a friend of mine. They were giving away a championship halter for that day, and she's like, well, Dodge's gonna go win that. He's gonna go win it. And I was like, no, his days are done. So we went, and my students competed in the youth and the open, and my one student did great with Jet. They took home, I believe it was the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and they did the barrels, poles, and plug, and they did a really good job that day. And I did the same thing with Dodge. So to win the halter, yeah, I do barrels, poles, and plug. So I was like, why not? Let's just go. We're having fun. So we entered Dodge in the barrels, and it was, everyone there knew him. They all know who I was. They all know him. And whoever didn't knew our story by the end of the day. And he went in to do the barrels, and his face lit up. He went there, and he's like walking around. He's like, okay, we're doing stuff and everything. And as soon as I start going to that alleyway and he realized what we were doing, it was game on. And it was probably one of the best feelings, just how excited he was. So he went in to run. He had a great first. Sure enough, he almost hit the 2nd because he cut it so close. I was able to actually reach down and grab it and fix it. And we held it back up and went to the 3rd, and we finished 5th. And I was like, okay, that was a good start. Then we went into the poles. Now, Dodge has only done pole bending one time at another fun show, just for the fun of it. We've never practiced it, never did it. He goes in and he gets, I believe, 2nd or wins the poles. No, he won the poles. And again, he blew everyone away. This 24-year-old Mustang, semi-retired, comes out of nowhere and does this. And then we went in the plug and we got 2nd in the plug. And I was like, wow, we might have a shot to win this thing. And sure enough, by the end of the day, they announced that we were the overall grand champion for the Crab Pot series, and for the Crab Pot day is October. And it was just a great moment to end the year. It was in October, and he was so happy. He was so full of himself. They all, again, many people knew our story, and the announcers were people that knew me, and they were so sweet. And they're like, can you come back out here with him so we can give you guys your halter? And we want to like play his song and everything like that. So it was a big thing, and he loved it. He was hamming it up the entire time. He comes back in there to come get stuff, and he's prancing around and everything. And they're saying like, yeah, this horse is 24 years old, blah, blah, blah. So it was a really, really fun day and a fun little show to do. And it meant the world. And decided after that show that he's retired now. He's still riding. And I always said he's that type of horse that he knew he won the world that day. He didn't win the world championships, but he was it. He was this macho little man. And I decided that he's 25 this year. and I was debating using him for as my breakaway horse, but he's getting up there in years, and he's been doing really good, but he's starting to like struggle a little bit with weight, and we're giving him lunches now, and he's doing good with all of it. But he's given me so much, and that I decided that would be his last ever competition. So he might go to some ropings with us when we go to ropings and stuff like that, just to help around and hang out. But that was his last competition that he would enter in, and I can't think of a better way for him to do it. It turned into a fun little entrance thing to like the Dodge show, and it really meant the world to me for my horse to have that, and I really thank all the people that did that. And so he's still around. You will see him in videos and see him around, but he's happy and hanging out, and I still ride him like 3 to 4 days a week, and he's still doing stuff around the ranch and farm and doing things, but he's just no longer competing. So that was a really good way to end 2022, and to have that moment with him and experience that with him. So this was supposed to be a short recap, but 2022 was a big year, and coming into 2023, we have a lot of things planned. It's going to be a big year, and after how last year ended in the winter off with some of my horses, they're coming for the season like ready to go. So I'm so excited to share with you guys this journey this year. There's a lot of things that are coming. There's gonna be a lot of big shows. There's a lot of exciting things that I have not told to everyone in the world, but some that I will touch base in another video. Larry's gonna be competing also. We're gonna plan to go to championships again, and we're gonna see how this year goes. It's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a big year for Boo, primarily. And we're gonna try to fit in whatever ranch shows we can, and my students are gonna go to a lot of shows. But 2023 is gonna be a huge year, and I can't wait to share it with you guys.